It's official. The leaks were indeed accurate. The wilderness years of Williams racing are now well and truly over. And with Carlos Sainz just existing in the Williams factory, it's already had the desired effect. They don't even need to put him on track at this rate. Yes, indeed, the leaks were right on the money. Williams have landed themselves their first title sponsor in half a decade, ever since the likes of Rocket bailed before the 2020 season. And it also brings to an end a rather interesting era of Williams' history and relationship with title sponsors, ever since Claire Williams dropped, just recently, a cheeky little angry letter from Ferrari lambasting Williams from stealing the title sponsorship rights of Martini. That's why we got the Martini Williams cars, one of the most beautiful cars in Williams' history. That could have been Ferraris, but Claire Williams was cheeky. Oh, I love the revelation of that letter. But don't you see? It's that intrigue and positive feelings towards this team which makes me believe that this project will succeed. But the wild days of sponsorship for Williams, yeah, they're done, with the stealthy arrangement with Australian firm Atlassian. And it's already sparking a flood of jokes among F1's programming geeks. And that this deal might be reportedly surpassing the amount that Komatsu put toward the team. This now with Atlassian being Williams Racing's biggest ever sponsorship deal in the team's nigh on 50-year history. I mean, quite frankly, you could expect Williams to pop up just about anywhere. Oh god, they're everywhere. And yes, you could easily attribute some of this success to the likes of Carlos Sainz's deal with them. Yes, I can easily say that the Spaniard has played his part in bringing much needed positive attention toward the Williams team. Not to mention really paying dividends toward the original backers and owners of the Williams team currently, Doralton Capital, in them not having to sink so much of their own resources into the project and instead relying on outsider investors and additional sponsorship money to pick up some of the slack. Especially with the surprise return of Estrella Galicia to Carlos Sainz's side, that personal sponsor making a comeback after a year away in the driver's final season with Ferrari, most likely at the request of Pironi, as it would be a conflict of interest. This being the third major sponsor to arrive at Williams' side in the last couple of months, Atlassian being the biggest contributor. This is more than just Williams going, "Please Atlassian, may we have some money?" No. This is something that goes deep, and I'm seeing a trend more and more these days with partners and sponsors of teams. This isn't just them going hand in cap, asking for some money, and that calling it a day with a label stuck on the car. No, these relationships go far deeper than they used to. Look, come on, we've all ribbed Williams for the whole Excel spreadsheet fiasco last year, and hey, Williams, James, if it doesn't work out, I'm sure Clippy will take you back. But this new deal with Atlassian is a key part of James Vowles' drive to modernise the entire operation. It goes really, really deep, with that little motif on the racing overalls with the driver's name actually alluding to some of the key software that Atlassian provides. Nice little touch there. And judging from the overall buzz and the surprising amount of awareness and attention that this has provided, considering I had never heard of this company up until a couple of days ago, this is a genuine acquisition which many people are going, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Williams are really, really lucky to have them. This isn't just some obscure name like Rocket. I'd never heard of Rocket. But an important thing is that last year, if we'd have had this announcement, it would have been shrug-worthy and people would have just gone, never heard of them, and gone about their day. It would have been a non-story. But now, the opposite has happened. We care about Williams now. We care about them having a title sponsor. We actually give a damn. And I can prove to you, specifically, why you care. Because of this little snapshot from Williams announcing this title sponsor. I mean, the view count on this otherwise typical announcement video was decent enough, and thanks to those who welcomed me in the comments, by the way, but this snippet right here that was a blink and you miss it jobby was something that Williams snuck in terms of a design detail to potentially provoke the internet. Something in relation to their new car, which generated several hundred likes, nigh on 1,000 likes, far above my average reach, meaning that people were interested. Now, okay, the likes of Molly Marissa and Dr. Obbs online, very expert technical and aerodynamic engineers, have pointed out that, hey, don't take this verbatim. Williams could be really sneaky here in just adding parts that don't exist or even legal on a certain car. This could be a scale model, or this could be a way of Williams trying to generate hype. But you know what? I don't care if it's true or not. The fact is, though, if Williams tried to gain positive attention and people hyping on about it, well, hook, line and sinker me. It worked like a charm. And this level of engagement from a simple freeze frame that last year people wouldn't have cared. And last year they would have been justified not to care, because the car that we did get, the car reveal, was a livery reveal. They weren't even close to finishing the FW46, and when it did arrive, it was late, it was heavy, and it wasn't fast at all. What are Williams doing here? They've made no progress from last year, even though James Vowles said that, well, 2024 wasn't going to be a really progressive year. We're just going to try and survive. And boy, did they try and survive through nigh on $10 million of damages in terms of damaged cars, as well as 17 separate incidents that were considered major crashes that James Vowles is still trying to get his head around. And this boy wants to really get his head around certain things. Stop before you bring Carlos Sainz into this. This isn't fanfiction.net. But yes, folks give a damn about Williams again, and already that's going to provide them so much needed support going into an otherwise unpredictable season where they could find themselves maybe in 5th or 6th in the constructors, or dead last. It's that tight down there. Stop before you bring Carlos Sainz into this. This isn't fanfiction.net. Now, you might be thinking that the rest of this video is going to be going on saying, yeah, Williams are going to win the Constructors' Championship, Carlos Sainz is going to win multiple podiums, and you should be expecting to say, I wish I hadn't sold my stake in Williams, or James, please, baby, take me back, all will be forgiven. Remember me telling you in Drive to Survive how to wear your shirt exactly so. No, that's not going to happen. Williams will be better. They will be getting some slightly more consistent results, and hopefully they won't crash nearly as much. But the best I think they will probably receive, and this isn't a full-on bold prediction yet, I'm working on those at the moment, so maybe subscribe to this channel to find out when I do drop those bold predictions, as per. I believe that maybe the best we can hope for this season is that maybe Williams, most notably Carlos, gets a cheeky podium. And even then, it would have to have come down from some of the big-name teams having a bit of an argy-bargy session with multiple senior and front-running drivers crashing out. So expect Max Verstappen and George Russell to have an argy-bargy session couple of times over the year. I mean, if you look at Dutch F1 news sites, they're already sowing the seeds of making George Russell out to be the bad guy. But going back to the Excel thing for a moment, what might have slipped some people by was the news from the team principal that development on the 2024 car ceased as early as the Canadian Grand Prix last year, with only minor adjustments being implemented for the rest of the year. And work on the FW47 had commenced around the month of May, which is very, very early for any team, be they big or small, to just go, screw it, we'll just work on next year's car, what's the point of carrying on? And quite frankly, that's for good reason, because could you imagine in 2024, if they were still upgrading the car and the drivers were still crashing the car, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So they were able to at least keep two things compartmentalized somewhat. This year will be a testing session, a way of seeing how the new way of implementing workflows and constructing a car with the brand new facilities that they've been investing in, how it all works out. Is to just iron out the bugs, the kinks, and find out how this new attitude of Williams actually works out before the regulations change again, and then you can really see how much has actually changed with this team. So where do I see Williams then, if they're not going to be at the top of the midfield? Well, I would liken where they are right now as to where Haas were at the beginning of 2023. Haas had secured a title sponsor which wasn't sensationalist nor sketchy, and was a sound business decision which would go some way in providing something more than just a simple payout. There was a sense of optimism too at the time, when Gunther Steiner's gamble of investing in the 2022 car at the expense of the 2021 car paid off. Kind of. It was certainly better than last place, that's for sure. And also, much like with Williams and Carlos Sainz, Haas secured the services of a very solid midfield driver who would provide a really good bed and established talent to be able to kick on for the following season 2024, Nico Hülkenberg. You got to admit that Hülkenberg's contributions to that team have been absolutely instrumental in where Haas is right now. He played his part in stabilizing the ship and providing a really strong and firm voice to counter against the whims of Gunther Steiner. Hülkenberg left Haas in a better condition than it was when he arrived at that team. And in 2025, Carlos Sainz has arrived. He will definitely also play his part and leave Williams in a better position when the time comes, even if the time with them is shorter than Vowles would ideally like, that being upwards of 4 seasons. But the key difference though between Williams and Haas, where the comparison will definitely diverge, and something that was summed up in an interview that Vowles undertook for the Mirror in the UK, goes to the fact that, well, Vowles knows what he's doing on the technical level, whereas Gunther, well, didn't. And it also goes to explain that the old Williams is well and truly dead, and Carlos is an absolutely crucial situation and a real sign that things are changing for the better, which isn't just hype. As said, right here. Cheers, Daniel. Ahem. From the outset, what I wanted to do was to bring the very best into this team. This is not the old Williams. This is not, let's have paid drivers. This is, who's the best? And start talking to them and get them there. The reason why I call it the best driver pairing is because there's no politics between either of those drivers. Alex and Carlos, neither one was political. They just want to go quick, and they just want to develop the team into a quick team. From where Williams is, that's the right partnership, the right lineup. The day I'm happy, hit me, because I shouldn't be. That, just so we're clear, folks, you know, if you see James Vowles smiling ever in public, please don't actually hit him. It's just a figure of speech. You know, don't take it literally. But he's right. This driver lineup is a clear indicator that Williams is looking upwards for the best drivers it can possibly get, and they got them, in the opinion of the team principal. I would say that this is very much the best lineup that Williams could possibly produce at this point in time before they can get tangible results, which would attract the interest of high-flying drivers. And yes, they are indeed not paid drivers. Sure, they come with plenty of money attached to them, but that comes from sponsors. This is not them coming with a big pile of money and say, hey, I will pay you this much, so that means I can race under your name. Give me a seat. And this isn't just a brand new situation, a brand new revelation where Williams are suddenly not taking in paid drivers. No, this is a doubling down of a sentiment they first conveyed back in 2022, before James Vowles arrived, because Jos Capito was doing his part in the background, but not nearly as pronounced or as rapid as James Vowles is. But he was telling the world that Nicholas Latifi being retained for the 2022 season was not down to the fact that he came with a lot of money from Safina, reportedly about $50 million a year or something like that, but no. He got that third season with them off the back of the fact that he'd had a fairly decent 2021 campaign. And no, I will stop you there, do not bring up Abu Dhabi 2021. We're having none of that here. So maybe that lineup in of itself, regardless of who the people are, might be some way why there's so much goodwill. That these two are not paid drivers. These are talented drivers. Yes, I know you could probably say, well, oh, Carlos didn't have much of a choice. Well, if that's the case, then he's certainly making the best of a bad situation. But I certainly don't think the situation is bad at all. He might be in on the ground floor, considering the fact that Williams actually approached Fernando Alonso before he signed for Aston Martin. And now, as recently as 3 weeks ago, Fernando has said that Williams in 2026 might be a team to be reckoned with, that they could be a serious contender. And also, both Williams drivers are not here to muck about with one another. They have no desire to get one up over the other. And both of them, as I mentioned in my previous video on the matter before this extra positive news landed, are Red Bull refugees who have been there, done that, with Max Verstappen next to them. This isn't fanfiction.net. They just want to go racing in a car that hopefully will get faster in not too long of a time period. Which, quite frankly, for Williams right now is fine by them, because even though they do have a long and lasting legacy, they're going through a bit of a phase right now where there is no real defined way of behaving. There's no Williams code of conduct or something like that, other than being kind to each other, don't be a jerk, and work hard. But going back to Carlos for a second, you might think I'm being simplistic in stating that he alone is the biggest reason why Williams are seen in a better light than they were before. Even better than when Franco Colapinto got the call-up last year. However, I would argue that his presence in the team factory is a tangible example to all who work at Williams that the next chapter of the team's legacy is there right in front of them. Ever since becoming a dad and seeing my little one develop and grow up, this classic mantra has rung true many, many times. Mind over matter. Sometimes having a positive perception about something can be just as effective, if not more so, than having the right tools right there in front of you. If you don't have the right attitude, you may not be able to flourish. Well, Carlos just being there, him just going, hello guys, everyone in the factory just goes, woo, yeah! I mean, come on, everyone's seen clips of that video at some point. He just exists and the team are happy. Just wait until he actually gets on the track and produces some points. But at the same time, the talk around Carlos probably had worn thin at the time, that until he actually walked into the office on day one, all of the hubbub was ideals and hopes and wants. But they all solidified the instant James Vowles tried to speak Spanish in that video on their YouTube channel, and Carlos looked completely and utterly dumbfounded, not understanding a word he said. Now, yes, That was cringeworthy. But at the same time, it made me smile because it was cute, well-meaning, daft, but also relaxed. So that could easily be telling Carlos, oh yeah, I'll be absolutely fine. I'll thrive here. I'll be allowed to be my own person. Because say what you will about Ferrari, Ferrari is a huge opportunity for any driver, and to turn it down would be a fool's errand that no driver would ever do. They would never turn down Ferrari. But at the same time, there are a lot of expectations put upon you. And as we saw with Estrella Galicia, when Pironi comes a-knocking, Estrella has to go. That's why they took refuge at McLaren for a while, but now they are back strong with their guy. So with this flexible seeming atmosphere with no real sense of tradition or expectations, since they're a work in progress, other than to work hard and bring results, this could be something where we see Sainz really kick on to the next phase of his career after learning the tricks of the trade at Ferrari. Yes, I am fully aware at this time there is no sign, or signs, of the emblematic chili appearing on the Carlos Sainz Williams team cap. It's seemingly gone AWOL, which is something that has been around that little chili glyph ever since the first team cap he had back at Toro Rosso. It's tradition at this point, and it's not there. Well, it might be on the helmet, it might be a work in progress, or maybe Carlos is coming out with his own merch, because people are saying, well, not even his trademark 55 number is on the cap. Well, it's on his helmet, again, so we will wait and see to see what cap he exactly wears on the first race day. But honestly, it's just a cap. What's more important is the man underneath the cap. Is he happy? Can he thrive? I certainly think he can. And I certainly believe that many other sponsors say he can, because, come on, Atlassian securing the deal, and Santander, Estrella Galicia, the entire Spanish-speaking world admiring the fact that Carlos Sainz has been given a new lease of life and he's still on the grid, and Fernando Alonso giving Williams a big old thumbs up in his own opinion. There is so much goodwill here from pretty much everywhere in the world. Franco, Argentina, they are going to be looking at James and Williams and saluting them, wishing them well, even though they also want Alpine to do well for actually keeping the faith with, Franco and maybe giving him a race seat. And I'll get into that in a future video. So again, do subscribe to the channel for when I drop that video and how it's really not looking good for Jack. And if Juan Pablo Montoya is to be believed, that maybe Formula One itself might be wanting to manifest Doohan's departure before it's even started. But there's one more thing that gives me real hope that was announced recently, that Williams' future is in good hands. Because even though the old way of doing things at Williams is very much being consigned to history books, there are still some signs that they don't want to eschew everything that has gone before them, that it's important to remember the successful times of Williams, and what better than to bring back the last ever drivers' champion for that team? That being Jack Villeneuve joining Jenson Button and Jamie Chadwick as a brand and team ambassador. And let me tell you why this is a really huge deal and a really big return for the Canadian champion. Because yes, it's got something to do with litigation and Papa Stroll. Jacques Villeneuve has returned to the team fold for the first time since 2017, where the team reportedly banished him, filing a restraining order even against the Canadian for him, well, calling supposedly their rookie Canadian driver Lance the worst rookie in F1 history. Now remember, Papa Stroll at the time had a controlling stake in the team, his mark remaining in the team's swanky simulator for his boy to use. However, this was a temporary situation, while the Strolls were around, but they departed back at the end of 2018. So now, Jacques is returning with open arms, and apparently he is ecstatic to be returning to the Oxfordshire-based team, that he has now got some extra leverage in the Formula One paddock, because you've got to admit, in the last couple of years, in fact, ever since he got married in Las Vegas 2023, his stock as a TV pundit has been rising steadily. Yeah, he's been saying very controversial and outspoken stuff, but you got to admit, Sky Sports has gotten the bug, and I think we'll be seeing even more of him in 2025, because sometimes his takes are thought-provoking, let's just say that. They're not necessarily correct, or I agree with them, but they certainly make me stop and go, oh. But love him or hate him, he is part of Williams' history, and a really successful one at that, because you've got to remember, he got a podium on debut in his rookie year. He fought for the championship in his rookie year, akin to one Lewis Hamilton. And it's making me think, where is this going to go? Are they going to bring in more big names from Williams' past? So might we expect next to JB, JC, now JV, JPM, and Nigel? But what I'm trying to get at here is that even though I'm not expecting on-track glory for 2025, what Williams is going through right now is producing meaningful results regardless. In Vowles' third year as team principal, the team is considerably more efficient and steady than it once was. I hate to bring it up yet again, but 2024 was a really tricky second year for James's stewardship. Many people were starting to doubt the efficacy of this project. They were not believing and trusting in the process. There were calls for him to resign after what was going down with Logan, and admittedly, that was a bad situation which James did fumble badly, but at least he owned up to it in the fullness of time. But either way, right now, in 2025, things look far more steady. They secured the bag in Carlos Sainz. He has managed to do some good work, and he seems happy. He seems focused. And even though this is a step down from Ferrari, this might be a temporary step down. Who knows? Williams might be back fighting with Ferrari and McLaren in a couple of years' time. They might at least be knocking on the door of a few wins. Maybe they might get back, I think this is a fairly realistic goal, of where they were in the early 2000s, where going into certain race weekends, you could easily go, you know what, I think one of the Williams drivers might be in with a shout of winning this Grand Prix. You know, the Juan Pablo Montoya, Ralf Schumacher days, where sure, they were not going to be outright favourites for a world championship, be it drivers or team titles, but they could be within a shout of at least having some contention at the beginning of the season or something like that. That, I think, would be more than enough for James, just for at least for them to figure and be relevant amongst the front-running pack. And quite frankly, Formula One needs it. Williams, Ferrari, McLaren, the three legacy teams who have had no change in ownership. This is all part of keeping Formula One as authentic as possible. So, as far as I'm concerned, James is doing a bang-up job, Carlos Sainz is playing his part, this resurrection arc is only just beginning, and getting a title sponsor now, fan-bloomin-tastic. I mean, they've still got a long ways to go to fully realise that, but hey, they're a darn sight closer than they were 2 years ago, right? Much like how Red Bull have realised that Max Verstappen's decision on his future is a lot closer than it was 2 years ago. To find out why I think Red Bull are now preparing for the inevitable of Max leaving far sooner than otherwise anticipated or hoped, watch this video next, straight after this one. And no, this is a good thing. This is good news. I'm not lambasting Christian.